All right, hello everyone, and welcome. Today, we are going to tackle a skill that is, and I mean this, absolutely essential for anyone navigating a Chinese-speaking environment, asking for directions. But we're not just going to scratch the surface. We're going to go way beyond simple vocabulary to really get a grip on the grammar, the crucial cultural nuances, and most importantly, how to ask with real confidence. So I want you to imagine this for a second. You're a new student, you're on this huge, sprawling university campus in Shanghai. Your map app is failing you, of course, you're running late for class, and you see people walking by. What do? What's your first move? This isn't just some abstract exercise. This is a real-world test of your language skills and your cultural savvy. And really mastering that one moment is exactly what we're here to do today. So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the absolute foundation, the polite approach. Then we'll get into the building blocks, our essential vocabulary. After that, we'll learn how to put all those pieces together into a perfectly formed question. We'll also spend a good amount of time on the crucial cultural etiquette, the unspoken rules, before we wrap up with the very practical skills of listening to the answer and getting your pronunciation just right. Okay, let's dive right into part one, the polite approach. Look, interrupting someone, no matter where you are, requires a bit of tact. But in a Chinese context where social harmony is really, really valued, starting off respectfully isn't just a good idea, it's absolutely essential. It truly sets the tone for the entire interaction that's about to happen. The first phrase you need to embed in your memory is this one, 请问. Now, let's really break this down because it's so much more than just, excuse me. The first character, 请, means please, sure, but it also carries this deeper meaning of to invite or to request. The second character, 问, well, that just means to ask. So when you put them together, you're not just getting their attention, you are literally and very humbly saying, I politely request to ask you a question. It's this beautiful, respectful phrase that immediately signals your good intentions. All right, let's move on to part two. Once you've graciously gotten someone's attention with 请问, you obviously need the words for where you're trying to go, the nouns for your destination. Knowing these is the next critical piece of this puzzle we're putting together. And this is where we can really see the incredible logic that's built right into the Mandarin language. Let's take library. 图书馆. It's not just a random collection of sounds. It's made of 图, which means picture or diagram, 书, which means book, and 馆, a word for a large building or hall. So a library is literally a picture book building. Isn't that amazing? The same logic is right there in student dorm. 学生宿舍. It's just 学生, student, plus 宿舍, dormitory. Simple. And the cafeteria, 食堂. Well, that's just 食 for food and 堂 for hall, the food hall. Once you start to see this internal logic, the vocabulary becomes so much easier to remember. Okay, on to part three, building your question. So you've got your polite opener, you've got your destination noun, and here is the really good news. Mandarin grammar, especially for this kind of question, is remarkably straightforward. You don't have to worry about complicated verb conjugations. It's really just a matter of assembling our components in the right order. We basically have two incredibly useful patterns to work with. The first one, using 在哪里, is all about asking for a static location. Where is the library? You're asking for its point on a map. Pattern 2, with 怎么走, is more about the journey. It literally translates to how to walk. So when you ask 去图书馆怎么走, you're asking for the route, the step-by-step instructions. Think of it this way. The first is about location. The second is about navigation. Both are absolutely crucial. So let's put a full sentence together piece by piece. Just follow the steps on the slide. Step 1, we always start with our polite opener to get their attention. 请问, 请问. Step 2, we state our subject, the place we're looking for. 图书馆, 图书馆. And finally, step 3, we add our question phrase. 在哪里?在哪里? Put it all together and you get 请问图书馆在哪里? See? It's a clean, simple, and elegant structure that's really easy to get the hang of. We have now arrived at what is quite possibly the most important part of our entire discussion today, cultural etiquette. And I really have to stress this point. You can have absolutely flawless grammar and perfect pronunciation, but if you ignore the cultural dimension, your interaction can still feel awkward or even fail completely. You have to remember, language never ever exists in a vacuum. This quote right here really gets to the absolute heart of the matter. The engine of interaction. I love that phrasing. In many, many situations in China, that engine is powered by a clear and respectful acknowledgement of social relationships. And that is especially true when it comes to age and seniority. When you approach a stranger, particularly one who is older than you need to actively show that you understand and respect this.
So, how do we actually show this respect? Well, a smile and a nod are pretty universal, of course. But this first point here is so culturally important. When you approach someone who looks to be around your parents' age, you don't just say hello. You address a man as shushu or a woman as ayi. Now, to be clear, you're not literally claiming they are your aunt or uncle. What you are doing is placing them in a respected familial position. This is a brilliant way to immediately close that social distance, and it shows an incredible level of cultural awareness. It says, I see you and I respect your seniority. This is a subtle but profoundly important part of the interaction.
Okay, let's move into our final section, part 5. You've done everything right so far. You've been polite, you've used the right words and grammar, you've shown cultural respect. Fantastic. But now comes the other half of the conversation, speaking clearly and, just as important, being able to understand the response you get.
When you get a reply, it's very likely you're going to hear some combination of these 3 core phrases, so it's absolutely imperative that you can tell them apart. Let's pronounce them very carefully. For left, it is zuwa. You hear that third tone, it has a little dip and then a rise, zuwa. For right, it's yo. That's a sharp falling fourth tone, yo. And for go straight, it's ijuzol. You really need to practice tuning your ear to catch these specific sounds. Okay, a very, very common pitfall for students is the fourth tone, especially on the word chu, which means to go. See, English speakers, we have this tendency to make questions rise in intonation at the end. So they mistakenly say it with a rising second tone, like chu. That's not right. The fourth tone has to be sharp, decisive, and falling. Think of it like a quick, sharp command. Not chu, but chu. A short, sharp drop. I promise you, practicing this one sound will make your speech sound so much clearer.
All right, let's put it all together in a little practice dialogue. I'll play both parts so you can really hear the flow. So student A, with a polite, slightly questioning tone, 请问阿姨,学生宿舍怎么走? Did you hear that respectful title, 阿姨? Perfect. Now person B, responding in a helpful, clear tone, 一直走,然后往右拐, which just means go straight, then turn right. Can you hear that rhythm? That is the natural, successful flow we're aiming for.
So as a final review, here is your mental checklist. Before you approach someone, just ask yourself, do I have my polite opener ready? Do I know the word for my destination? Is my grammar structure correct? Am I ready to use a respectful title? And have I practiced my tones? If you can mentally check off these 5 boxes, believe me, you are ready to go.
You know, when you boil it all down, the real takeaway today is this. Asking for directions in Mandarin isn't just a simple linguistic transaction. It's a complete cultural performance. It has an opening act, it has a script, and it requires a real appreciation for your audience. And after today's deep dive, you have every single tool you need. So the only question left is, are you ready for your debut?